Hi guys, so I'm back and it's an introduction to the first reading I did today, which is Peter Thiel. Before I get started, I just want to say that I'll be starting readings, personal readings, probably the end of this week, not next. So if you're interested, just send me an email. I'm not completely set up, but I just want to get started with organizing, and send me a message. My information is right below the video. And before I get started with Peter Thiel, I just wanted to say, to give you a little bit of a warning, that this is a little bit of a more advanced reading, in the sense that I go into a lot of issues related to technology. So I go through it very slowly, and I give a lot of information. So it's the kind of thing that if you're not really into that, I don't recommend that you keep going. Okay, and of course, if you're interested in technology, you might like it more. But it's one of those readings, it reminds me a little bit of the reading I did about Robert Mercer and Betsy DeVos, where there's these elements that are more complex than just personal life or legal issues, okay? And just to give you a background about Peter Thiel and why I think he matters. He hasn't been named in the investigation. I don't know that he will. Who knows? But I think he's an important person, both ideologically and in terms of operations in this whole thing. Because what I'm doing really with this channel is putting together a story. But when I look at the story, he's a player in two important elements. First, the Trump camp. He's a big donor. He's been very supportive of Trump, and the reading actually discusses his loyalty. He is definitely loyal to Trump, and he has this, what's the word, intellectual underpinning to he gives, in a way, intellectual credence to Trump in ways that no one else does, because he's very respected otherwise. He's a very well-known investor. He is Facebook's first investor. And he's a very smart person. He wrote this book that actually is a great book called 0 to 1. And for me, doing a reading on him is a little bit complicated because I liked his ideas, some of his ideas a lot before he came out and supported Trump. But after he became an overt supporter, and some of the things he said, I realized that it's very difficult to separate their beliefs from the work, when you know that in a way supporting Trump means working against people who look like me, basically. Okay, so that's a challenge. But again, going back to Peter Thiel, the reason why he's important, in order to understand the whole mechanism, the whole apparatus, is that one, he's a Trump supporter, a donor who was involved in the Trump transition team. Okay, number two, he is a very important person in Facebook. He is a member of the board of directors. He was the first investor in Facebook. He's close to Mark Zuckerberg. And then three, he understands data probably like very few other people do, because again, he's been with Facebook. Obviously, he doesn't work for Facebook, but he's seen what Facebook has done from the beginning, one. And two, he founded a company that essentially does data mining for the government called Palantir. Okay. So that he's involved, he understands this like many other people don't understand. So because he's in both the technology and the ideological camp and the financial camp, he can connect people in these fields, right, in the sort of logistics of all of this very easily. And like I said, this is just an introduction to what I know about him, and the readings are, of course, fiction, right? In a way, I'm just putting stories together, and it has nothing to do with quote-unquote truth, okay? And again, just to reiterate, it's a very complicated thing for me, because I like some of his ideas, but I cannot stand not just the politics, right? But all the things he stands for. Because I think what happened with Trump is that it created these waters when politics becomes right, there's a line between politics and what is acceptable in the sense of what is about hate and what is about humanity. And I feel like Trump really crossed into the other line where he's willing to kill people. He's willing to prey on the basest and the lowest of emotions in order to get what he wants. And because of all his policies, the existence of someone like Trump in the government, or even just supporting Trump, means that you support policies that are against me as a person. Okay, and this is why I think so many women feel this so personally, and I feel personally, so that it really is. It was a dividing water. I don't think we were aware of the consequences of all of this. Okay, so again, it's just for me, it's an interesting situation to look at Peter Thiel, knowing what I know about his ideas and understanding his special roles in the development of both the ideology and the group of people who are interested in this ideology, as well as the development of technology and how this technology may or may not connect to the ideological underpinning. Okay, so that's Peter Thiel, and I'm going to end here. And again, just warn you that it's a little bit technical, the reading that I do about him. So if you're not really interested in that, there are many other readings that you might like better. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye. Okay, so this is the actual reading. I've done the introduction. I'm going to go right into the reading. So the center of the reading is Peter Thiel's position. Okay, and this is a card, Queen of Wands, upright, the fish, the Hierophant, and the dog. Okay, so this, I've said before, I usually haven't been seeing the queens as people, but I tend to see them as element. So it's the Wands element, so that means a passionate, devoted, charismatic person who has basically the Wands is a fire element. So action, passion, getting started, all those things. So what this basically tells me is that this is a card of a lot of money, right? So he's a passionate supporter, I think, and he basically puts a lot of money into this. And this is a card, the Hierophant, I've said before, it's a card of the group that keeps the norms. I think of this card as a card of the group that's influential behind the scenes. Because, of course, if it's related to religion, it has to do with ideas and has to do with concepts. So, in a way, it makes sense that he's like this. It's showing him as a very loyal supporter, okay, a loyal member of this group, a lot of times hidden groups. But he is a loyal member of the group, powerful group, right? So, because the popes used to be are still powerful, but they used to be very, very, very powerful. So that's him, loyal member of the very powerful group of people who support Trump, and in a way also his position in the world. You could say that he's a very influential person regardless of Trump. He's a very important investor. I could say even though I disagree with some of the things he says, he's an intellectual, and he said many interesting things before this. And just because I disagree with him now, it doesn't mean that what he's done before is not relevant. Okay? All right. And I just want to say, I went right into the center. But this reading, just give you a quick overview of this. It's a pretty interesting reading, and it's one of those moments where I sort of extrapolate or kind of go into some elements of tech, but it's pretty interesting. I don't know what is going to happen to him, but it's showing me in a good way that he seems to have a conscience. Because what really worries me is doing readings when people are not aware, or that they're so psychopathic that they just don't see the problem. And here it's showing me that he's upset with Trump, that he's very worried about his own reputation, that there are elements here that I think are interesting because it's not something that I would assume from the attitude he's taken since supporting Trump. He seemed very defiant in public. Okay. All right. So I'm going back to the background here. And this is a very interesting, almost enigmatic part about the background. So this is a card of the harvest. I've talked about this before, where it's a card of when you just getting a good chunk of money. You're not quite there at the top yet, but it's just a process of harvesting, okay? And this is the heart. So I feel like when the card heart comes up, it's sending me a strong message. It's telling me that this person, this is what they are. This is what they really care about, okay? And right underneath it, it's the Lover's card. It means some sort of disagreement, maybe business gone wrong. Also, just wrong, I don't want to say fights, but there's a connection to emotions, and I'll tell you why I think this is interesting. Okay, so yesterday I was looking at it because yesterday I think I had a hard time falling asleep, so I ended up doing this reading, and then I thought, okay, I'll just do this tomorrow, talk about it tomorrow. But I thought about it a lot, and I did some research on this because this was very intriguing to me. Okay, this heart, especially the top, the heart card, and the harvest, because so Peter Thiel is a billionaire. He has enough money. He doesn't care. I don't think he's in a position right now to have to worry about money. And of course, you could say, well, he's an investor, so of course he's going to, quote unquote, reap the rewards of what he's planted. Yes, it's possible. But I'm thinking the question was, what's his role in the Mueller investigation? So I have to always go back to the question, what's important about this? And what do I know about him? And what do I know about this issue? And so negative emotions to some extent, or something related to emotions, relationships, and the key card. And also, the key card is also a very important card for the Lenormand. It always says, when I'm reading the book, the important book by Raina George, it says that this card is the indicator. It indicates the issue, and it indicates what's important about it. So in a way, it echoes the heart card, because in a way, the key card indicates what's important about for the reading, and the heart card indicates what's important for the person we're asking. So I feel like it was sending me a message, and I couldn't tell exactly what it was. And it just didn't make sense. And then I thought about it harder and harder about all his connections. And I was like, whoa. Then I feel like and this is, again, a moment where I'm sort of extrapolating. Okay, I'm pushing it to the more technical side, and I'm making an assumption. Again, of course, this is not truth. This is just connecting stories. Okay, so what is harvesting? I thought about, okay, harvesting land, earth. What does it mean? And then I thought, oh, data harvest. So I was like, well, that makes perfect sense. And then I'll tell you about let's talk about data harvest. So we have the internet, of course, right? So anything that's on the internet is text, right? So text is also data, right? So in a way, it's like there's thousands of enormous amounts of information are usually in form of text or sometimes numbers. It's called data, right? So data in a way is a more basic form of text. So programs like Facebook, for example, they have like insane amounts of data collected about people like us. Okay. So if you're a programmer, anybody can do this if you're interested in it. You don't have to be a genius or anything. You can learn this. Again, I'm warning you, just kind of go. I'm going to go very slowly just so you understand, but I just want you to understand what this means so that you understand the structure of the technology behind this, okay? So anyway, we're talking about data, like the importance of data and what is data and data harvesting, okay? So we have this data on the internet. And if you're a programmer, especially if you know this language called Python, okay, you can learn this language and you can create programs that go on the internet, find text or information related to something you're looking for, okay? And this is also something that, for example, the reason why Facebook is so successful and so much more successful than other social media companies is because it's able to sell information. What's data? Data is information, okay? So sells information about users to people who buy their advertising, okay? So this information is actually very valuable because it's something that is sold, okay? And so, of course, Facebook has all this data. The web has data. So, like I said, you can easily one of the initial tutorials about programming, you can learn how to do web scraping, find information, and get data back about something you're looking for. It doesn't have to be huge. Okay, you can go on Twitter. There's different ways to do it. I'm not going to go into it into a lot of detail, but I'm just explaining that this is what data harvesting is looking into data, finding data, grabbing it, okay? Web scraping is another name for it, okay? All right. So if we look at a company like Facebook, of course, their data is very valuable, right? Because it's 2 billion people and they have this very unique means of accessing all this information about people and what they like and what they respond to, okay? So of course, Facebook and companies like Facebook are very protective of information about their users in the sense that not that they care about protecting our privacy necessarily, they care about protecting data as an abstraction, right? In the sense that they don't want other companies to be able to go into their platform and steal everything they know about their users, right? They don't want that. They want to be the ones who have access to this data and protect it so that the person has to go to them in order to buy this information. Okay, all right. So what companies do to protect the data they have is something called encryption. So there's something called data key encryption, okay? So, and again, I'm taking it to a sort of intense level of detail here, okay? So what happens is, of course, if you want access to data from Facebook, it's not just randomly available. You can't just find it and search it like that. Facebook must keep data encrypted, and data encryption has keys, okay? So keys are basically sort of passwords that protect the company's data from others. So what I'm feeling this has to do with this harvesting thing is the data. He's committed to the data harvesting issue, and he has a key to the data, literally. Okay, so he can give people data in other ways, in ways that nobody else can, because again, he knows the company so well, and I'm sure the company would trust him with something like that. Again, I'm not accusing Peter Thiel of this. I'm not just saying that. I'm looking at these cards and I want to put a story together, a story that makes sense within the investigation, within the role this person plays, and within what we know about what happened through this Russian interference and the Russian interference on Facebook. Okay, so basically, just a summary, Peter Thiel appears to, according to the cards, okay, be involved or be very interested in the data harvesting and having a key to the data. In other words, he has the passwords to the large amounts of data. Okay, all right. So moving on from this, I went on into a lot of detail because I want you to understand why this could be crucial, okay, and why this matters. Because there's several elements here that we'll talk about this. There won't be as in-depth as this, but there are some smaller elements about technology and there's legal elements, but this is something that you really have to understand about the Peter Thiel's reading, okay? All right. So the second row is Justice card and Ship, and then the Fool and Guilt. Okay. So what this is telling me, oh, and by the way, I don't know if I've mentioned this before. So Peter Thiel is actually a lawyer. He has a law degree from Stanford, and he practiced law, I think, for a year or two or something before he left to become an investor or start a hedge fund. I don't remember exactly. He started PayPal at some point. So here is what this tells me is that justice comes, and justice comes in matters related to foreign influence. And this is a fool. So this card means I don't believe Peter Thiel is a fool by any strength of the imagination. So I think this means a new start, the classic sense of the fool, a new beginning, a new start. And it could also be Trump. It could be the new person. I don't think in this context it's not saying that Trump is a fool, but it's a new beginning. It's a new project, okay? And this is an interesting card, tough card, because it says guilt. And I had seen this yesterday and I sort of forgot about it because I was kind of obsessed about the data situation. And now that I'm looking at it, it's like, whoa, it's pretty bad because you have the guilt card underneath justice. So it's saying he's guilty when it comes to the Russian thing, okay? In a way, I look at this and this is what it's telling me. It's saying the justice comes, it comes, and with the question about Russia, and it could also mean that he's very worried about it, that it's like a burden that he's carrying. And either way, I don't think this is very positive. I don't think this is good because it's saying it's a card of heavy burden, heavy karma. Yeah, I don't think if it gets to only affect him on a mental level, it's bad enough. But if this points to actual legal consequences, that's a problem. And I'll tell you why, one second here, okay? I'll tell you why, I'll connect these two cards, okay? I'll tell you why this could be a little worrisome. So this, like I said, it's like he likes the data, the harvest. He's committed to this harvest. And what's next to it, the harvest, is the foreign influence, okay? So somehow he's connecting to, this is the data and this is the foreign influence. So he's connecting the data to the foreign thing. It's kind of a problem, Peter Thiel, sorry. And then the key thing, again, and because, like I said, the key card, it's not just that it could be the key for the data encryption key situation, is that this could point to guilt. Okay, so the key so the key, like I said, is a symbol within the readings themselves that points the reader to what's important. And it's telling me this is an important card because it's right next to it. So it's saying it's important because this is the card of guilt. Okay? It's a card of guilt. Okay? And the fool, I don't know if it means that he's a beginner. He was kind of an innocent. Well, I'm sorry. It's not saying that he's innocent, but it's his first foray into this political thing on a bigger scale, okay? Maybe. Again, it's not, there's nothing reversed, there's nothing, so I don't know exactly how this will play out. But because this is in the background, it's saying this is the story, this is the important part of the story you have to pay attention to. Okay, so I have to pay attention to this, okay? So moving to the second part of the main reading, I have this relationship, okay? It could be personal business, painful. A lot of fighting or painful. Like I said, not emotionally painful, but fighting or just kind of, just a conflict. This is a card of illusions, castles in the air, mountain, okay? So what this is telling me, and I'll show you right here. So like I said, this is the center, right? And the center showed him as a person who's passionate supporter, passionate donor. And then you see a relationship here and a relationship that, I don't want to say turns sour, but there's an amount of belligerence, so there's an amount of conflict, stress. Oh, stress, that's one thing, actually, this card, sometimes I forget about this, but it's related to stress. So this relationship that he has causes a lot of stress to him. And it creates problems. Like this is opposition and a lot of problems. A lot of problems to the castles in the air or the illusions, okay? So maybe because he was somehow involved in these illusions, this becomes a problem to him, okay? And I'll put this next to another card that was next to it, which was, this is the center, right? So this is the person who was loyal to the group, part of a group of important people. Illusion, and problems. So again, because it's also saying this person is a loyal, because he is a loyal member of this group, this brings problems to him. And it's possible that in some way his role might have been related to this illusion, because the entire administration, right, is about an illusion, creating illusions. So he is somehow involved in this illusion creation, and that creates long-term problems and obstacles for him. Okay, and this is how this main reading ends. And this is pretty interesting. Like I said, this relates somehow to technology. So this is a family, right? Happy family. And this is a card of society, but it's also a card of social networks. Okay, so we could see, well, this is a family-oriented social network. And this is a card of aggression and bully, kind of like a person who's... I remember this card came up for the Saudi Arabia prince, like hit like this. And I remember saying that at the time. This is the card of the rebellious teenager. I'm not going to do this. I'll do whatever. Okay, so it's important. Okay, I'll put the here, and then there's a snake. So what I feel this says to me is that underneath the family values social network, there was a lot of... This is, in a way, if we look at hate speech, what is hate speech? Is it an amplification of this attitude, of the bully attitude, the bully speech? Because the swords is always mental, and it's always, I think, in some ways related to speech. So it's like the social network with two, is a snake. So what does it mean? That they have two faces. They have this side of being family-oriented, but they also have this side of being enabling this aggression to, in a way or another. And one second here, because it, again, like I said, because there's all these elements related to the Trump campaign, the hate speech thing, and because it's showing me that he is connected to this data situation somehow, it makes sense that the very left of the part of the reading is the heart with the data harvest and the key, data key, encryption key, okay? And then it ends with a family-oriented social network that has like hate speech that is two-faced and in a way supports hate speech in a way or another, right? It allows this sort of aggression to go on. So if I look at these two next to each other, illusion and long-term problems are related to this the snake situation and hate speech or subtle teenager talk, okay? And again, stress. This relationship that he has with Trump creates a lot of stress for him. In a way, probably creates stress for him in his role as a board member in the social network that is family-oriented, okay? All right, so that was a lot. So, okay, so now let's move on to the second part of this reading, which is the part that I've done for everybody that I think has had legal issues. So anyway, I'm doing this for him. I don't know what's going to happen to him. It's not very clear here if he suffers any consequences. But what I'm seeing here... So anyway, so I decided to do it just because I needed to understand more. It was, if at all, I don't think... he's not, he's not Manafort or anything, or he's not somebody who is seen as a big person, but I just like to understand it a little bit more. Okay, so we have the Ace of Swords reversed. So the Ace of Swords reversed, I think, is a card of lack of focus, because like this is like winning and going to the point, getting right to it. It's like a sword, right? But if it's like wobbly, it's kind of pointless, right? It's just like a lot of energy and no focus. And the White House. And Peter Thiel, and it's weird because I'm doing this reading on him, and he, like I said, he has many, it's a weird thing to say that I'm like recommending I'm saying all these horrible things about him, and I'm also recommending some of his talks and some of his books. But he has this thing about focus. So when he worked in PayPal, he was one of the founders. He's a member of this thing called the PayPal Mafia. And I don't remember if he was CEO, something, he had some important role there. So one of the things he said he had while he was at PayPal is that he hated meetings. So he made sure that they had as few meetings as possible, and that every person had a focus, like had a goal that they were responsible for. And so he's very interested in this focus thing, and this is showing me the opposite. very unfocused. The White House is unfocused. So in a way, it's showing that he doesn't respect them or he doesn't like something about them. Okay. And it's showing me here, we've been getting this card a lot. So the plans for the world and the plans upside down. So in a way, I feel like it's his perspective, right? So he's seeing that this because it comes with Stork, and Stork is a card of positive improvements, promotion. So from his perspective, he thinks that the White House is quote unquote disruptive, quote unquote is going to turn the, what do they call it? To turn the establishment upside down, which it's hilarious that those people have the gall to call anyone else establishment, because that's, to me, they seem very established themselves. But anyway, so he sees the White House as a disruptor, quote unquote, that's going to bring positive changes from his perspective, okay? And he put money, this is a card of pure money, just money element, behind the child. So he, in a way, it's also saying because this person is immature, as a child, you have a lack of focus. But that ultimately he believed in Trump because he saw him as a person who was going to bring positive changes to the political atmosphere, okay? And now this is, and I'll tell you, yesterday I saw something about it. I forgot why. But I'm a little bit involved in technology, and so I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but a lot of investors, some investors have this belief, the libertarian belief, and I think in a lot of ways these libertarian ideas are sort of like a seed to sort of a spread of fascism, like making fascist ideas acceptable, okay? So this is why I think he's so dangerous, because in a way he normalizes all these very radical ideas. He's able to sort of create a patina around them that makes them acceptable. And anyway, so what I was going to say is that this reading, in a way, helped me understand him a little bit more help me see that he does have regrets about this too. I don't know what's going to happen to him after that, but anyway, so this is a card of a person. Like I said, this is a heartbreak. And this is a person who's having a hard time moving on from a heartbreak. So in a way, he's heartbroken over Trump, and he's having a hard time moving on from it. It's like kind of getting at him, okay? And this is the older man. So he's heartbroken. He's having a hard time moving on from being heartbroken over the older man. And this is a person very worried. You see the scene is a person who can't, in the middle of the night, super worried. Super worried about shady deals behind the scenes. Okay, I don't know. Okay, I'll let me just get to the end here. I don't know if it's his or somebody else's. So, and it's interesting because he's worried about his reputation. This is a card of reputation, and this is a card of the investor. Okay, and he's a very well-known investor, very respected investor, and that's him. Okay, so he's an investor, and it's a reputation as an investor. So if we look at the cards here, it's saying he's having a hard time moving on from feeling like just being very disappointed, heartbroken over Trump. He's worried about behind the scenes deals. Maybe that, I don't feel that this is necessarily him. I feel like this is something he's seen, because the first card was the older man. It's not him. And that he's worried about how this may impact his reputation as an investor. Okay. Now this is the last row, and this is pretty interesting because, okay, so I'll show you this message. This is a card of messages. When you have an invitation or somebody sent you a message or a new, it's a positive beginning, it's positive, but it's also messages. Okay. And this is a secret message. This is things are arriving fast, and this is delay. Okay, so delay about what? This is Russia. Okay, secret Russia delays. The emperor could be Trump, and corruption, theft, crime. So, because I tend to use this last row as the indicator of the person's story. in terms of history. Like, what does history what will history say about him in the context of this investigation? Okay. So in a way, it's saying that he has a secret. He knows something about messages and delays caused by Russia, or somehow messages and secrets, right, related to Russia, and how Russia is connected to the emperor, and how Russia is connected to corruption, okay, and theft or something. So I don't know. I mean, it's so funny. After doing the reading, because right now we're finished, I feel for him, actually. Because like I said, I respect a lot of his ideas, and I feel like in a way, either he thought he was, let me say above the law is not right, but he thought he's like one of the smartest people ever. So he thinks that, some people like that, they could be sociopathic. So he probably thinks that he can get away with anything, but he's saying, and the other thing too, I thought, okay, what is this? What does this mean? A message, secret message. And I thought about this card too a lot, because what does this mean? Because this card here means fast transmission. It could also mean internet and fast things that like energy. So what I'm feeling is like, because the whole thing was connected to the data operation, data harvest, data encryption key. There's something that he knows about how data is transmitted. Because what are messages? Messages are this content, right? That's transmitted, and in a way is causing delays, or there's ways that the Russia involvement causes some kind of delays. So he has knowledge of that, okay? And he has knowledge of how that is corrupt, okay? Of the corruption of the emperor. I don't believe it's him, again, because I don't think this is necessarily a card for him. He's definitely the card that I saw in the center, the dog with the hierophant. See, he's a very influential person who is part of a secret group of powerful people. Okay, so this is him. And I feel, like I said, I kind of almost, it's such a weird thing to say that I feel bad for him, because I feel like he's had it all. He's like this, he's so interesting, he's so intelligent, and yet this is just sort of showing the dark side of that, okay? And I don't know, it's showing me a lot of regret, a lot of worry about his reputation, and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't see a card here that indicates talking to Mueller. I don't see, it shows guilt, which is a problem, or shows maybe, maybe chagrin, that he may be involved with this, this card, that card of the cross here is going to create a real problem, like a serious guilt of karma to him, or of some sort. But ultimately, yes, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen to him in terms of any verdict or anything like that. He doesn't get any of the other bad cards, the coffin or scythe or any of that. He doesn't have that. So I don't know, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen to him, or if these things that are, this could also be a possibility. The cards I'm seeing are basically what he's going to reveal, because the second part of the reading here is when I focus on the Mueller investigation itself. So, like I said, I don't know what is going to happen, like what his fate is going to be. I just opened up a window into his role, his participation, and what he knows. Okay? So that was Peter Thiel. Thanks for watching.